Okay, I thought I would do a bit of a show and tell about this ancient Hioki meter. I picked it up probably a few months ago now and put it aside. It came as part of a lot of electronics. Didn't really have a whole lot of interest in it, but there seems to be a couple unusual attributes, at least unusual to me. I don't have a whole lot of experience with really old meters like this. It is complete in its original box with the manual and what appears to be the original leads. It's got some mysterious, at least to me, what looks like Chinese writing on the side there. Now, when I first got this thing, it still had the protective plastic film over the front here. It was looking really nasty, so I pulled that off. Kind of regretting that now, but yeah, it's gone. It looks pretty pristine. Now this, I assume, is the original lead set here. They're really cheap feeling, but they seem to work okay. Bit on the wobbly side, maybe. And the meter itself, some sort of a brittle plastic front and metal rear. The paint is starting to flake off a bit on it. Not really surprising given its age. The dial appears to be protected by actual glass there. A little bit of crud under the display, but yeah, again, nothing really surprising given its age. One thing that I wasn't really expecting on it is this 5 kV labeled plug on there. I'm going to assume that means 5,000 volts. Doesn't appear to have a 5,000 volt range on the dial there, but it's probably some sort of a multiplier for one of the other ranges, maybe even the 1 volt range. Assuming that's probably just for DC. It doesn't seem to be labeled at all, so yeah, I'm going to assume DC. As the original manual here, which is pretty minimalist and all typed. It makes mention of a type of battery I've never heard of. It appears that it will either take 2 UM3 1.5 volts, otherwise known as AA's, or 1 BL015 at 22.5 volts. I have no idea what that is. I've never seen one before. But I'm going to assume it's some kind of a dry cell stack thing, maybe used for cameras at one point. It's got a little diagram on the back of what it looks like inside there. Otherwise, it's really just instructions. The other sheet of paper that came in the box with it is a little notice that it is a fused meter. I'm going to assume at one point that was a bit of an unusual thing. Mentions a glass fuse and something they call a wire fuse. And looking at the diagram here, the wire fuse is quite literally soldered on to the logic board. Just a little piece of wire. And they include a little baggie with some spare wires in there. Several of them, in fact. Gives instructions on how to replace it. Very odd. I've never seen that before on anything. Now I've gone ahead and put some batteries inside the meter. And surprisingly, at least to me, it seems to work perfectly. I've tried measuring voltage in DC as well as AC and resistance, and it all seems to be pretty close. Only thing I haven't tried is measuring current. Don't really have an easy way of doing that on hand. Now I've got my power supply set for 5 volts even. The fluke is currently attached to it. It's measuring just under 5 volts. Now try the old Hioki here. And That is measuring just a hair under the 5 mark. That is about as good as you're going to get. Now I'm going to try setting the power supply to, say, 25 volts. I should probably change the range first. And on the 50 volt range, again, pretty much perfect. Just under the 25 mark. And it would seem the fluke agrees with it. Now, for resistance, resistor is rated at 240 ohms. That is coming up, I'd say, about 250-ish. It's really hard to tell on this dial for me. I'm not used to it at all, but from here it looks like about 250. Now let's try the fluke. And coming up at 242. Now let's try something that is highly inadvisable and go right into the mains. Got the range set for 250 volts. And that looks like it's coming up at just over 120-ish? No, a little under 120 maybe. Again, kind of hard for me to tell. I'm not used to this kind of meter. As for the fluke, oh, that alone was enough to set it off. Just a hair over 120. Now it's time to see what's inside the thing. Case is held together with a couple little Phillips screws. Got some kind of a presumably serial number or inspection label stuck to the inside of the back. And there's the meter itself. There's the compartment there for the mysterious 22.5 volt battery. Got a couple inner loops powering it right now. It's got some kind of a, I'm guessing, giant current shunt going across the whole logic board, and it is disturbingly unshielded. It's actually getting pretty close at that point. Seems to be attached to the negative and the 10 amp test ranges. And let's see if we can find this little wire resistor. There we are. It's right there. Not sure if that'll focus or show up very easily, but I see it. Just like a little hair. Seems to have diode protection across the meter movement there. Not much to it really. Everything's on the other side of the board, which doesn't look like it's all that easy to get out, but it's pretty much just a bunch of resistors. A couple trim pots on the bottom there. Don't really want to touch those. All right, that's it.